Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Thursdays. We are live right now. We're going to do the fade with Kelly in Vegas at Kelly Stewart. It'll be up later this afternoon. It'll get you ready for the NFL and the college football weekend to come. That is going to be up a little bit later, but this is the regular OutKick the show. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. We are going to have a fabulous show here as we get ready to roll into the football weekend. I'm going to start with tonight's NFL game. Again, we'll have a bigger breakdown for you on the fade. But I like the Bucs tonight going up against the Bills. Thursday night football, NFL Week 8 in action. I think it's probably going to be a low-scoring game. The numbers all the way out as I speak to you right now and am checking the line. Numbers all the way out to 9.5. I'll talk about this in greater detail with you a little bit later. But I like the Bucs plus 9.5. I'm not sold on the Bills. They haven't been consistent. Other than the performance that they put forward where they just dominated the Dolphins, the Bills have been very mediocre for me. They shouldn't have lost to the Jets. They were fortunate to get past the Giants. The offense doesn't seem to be firing on all cylinders right now. I just think this is too big of a number. The Bucs haven't been awful under Baker Mayfield. I think they'll be competitive. Let me go ahead and give you, by the way, all of my NFL picks right off the top, and then we got a bunch of other stories to dive into. I've got the Bucs plus 9.5, as I just mentioned, Thursday night football. These are the numbers. These are up on OutKick. They're going to be out, I believe, every single Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not sure officially when they posted them, but they've been up for a while. I've got the Colts. I think they beat the Saints. I've got the Jags to beat Pittsburgh. I got them at 2.5. Not sure where this line is right now. Dolphins as big favorites against the Patriots. I bet them at 9.5. Falcons, Titans, I'm on the under 37. I think it's going to be a really low-scoring, ugly defensive struggle. I've got the Vikings -1 against the Packers, and this was before any of the news was out about Brock Purdy and his health for the 49ers, but I bet the Bengals plus 5.5. This is a second quarterback that I've had that potentially is going to miss substantial games in my high-end fantasy football league. I had Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, that didn't go well. I've now got Brock Purdy. It appears he may be out with a concussion. I hope he's back. But I like the Bengals even before we knew what the 49ers' health condition was in that particular universe. I want to start. So those are that's my OutKick NFL 6-pack. It's up on OutKick.com if you want to go check it out. And by the way, we're a little bit over 500, 27 and 26 on the year when it comes to NFL picks. Riley Gaines, super talented, super smart, super hardworking, OutKick employee. She does a lot of things, but she's traveling all over the country speaking, and she's got a crazy opinion. Her opinion is women's athletics should be made up of women. And I can't believe this is considered controversial. If you had told me when I started talking about and writing about sports 19 years ago, my first articles about sports went up in the fall of 2004. So I have been active on the information superhighway on the internet for 19 years now. Nearly a generation of life. You've been able to get online and go read whatever your boy had to say about anything in the world of sports. If you had told me in 2004, Clay Travis, we're going to jump into the time machine, we're going to go ahead to the 2020s, it's going to be controversial if you say women's athletics should be made up of only women. And there's going to be a big subset of people out there that say, hey, if men decide they want to identify as women, they should be able to do so. And they should be able to be crowned as women's champions. And the NCAA women's swimming champion might be a dude. I would have said, you're crazy. There's no way on earth that that's ever going to be possible. Yet, here we are. So all Riley Gaines does is go around and say, hey, this is crazy. Hey, I think women's sports should be made up of women's athletes. This is not a crazy proposition. Men are bigger, stronger, and faster than women. In fact, there's a video of me that went viral. I think 1 million people have watched it. And I retweeted and I shared it, where I said, hey, I think talented men's high school basketball players, that is state champion men's high school basketball players, would beat the WNBA champions. I think at least 25 states could have a boys high school basketball champion beat the WNBA champ. And people are like, no, some people are. A lot of people are like, yeah, you know what, Clay, you're right. A lot of people are like, no, you're crazy. No, I'm right. Because men are bigger, stronger, and faster than women. Every boy who won a Texas high school sprinting championship statewide in the most recent Texas State high school championships is faster than the fastest woman in the history of the world. This blows people's minds. Facts matter. Every high school age boy in the state of Texas that won a statewide, whatever it is, 3A, 4A, whatever the highest level is, championship, is faster in their sprinting competition than the fastest woman has ever been in the history of the Olympics. That's kind of a big deal. High school boys in Texas winning state championships in track are faster than the fastest woman who has ever existed in the history of the world. And the 15 and under Dallas, Texas boys beat the U.S. women's soccer team, the world champion for women, as they got ready for the 2019 World Cup 5-2. These are not the best 15-year-old boys in the nation. These are the best 15-year-old boys in Dallas, Texas. They beat the U.S. women 5-2 in a soccer match head-to-head. Not 17-year-olds, not 18-year-olds, not even nationwide, just the best 15-year-old boys in Dallas, Texas. They were better than the best women. Doesn't mean that women's athletes don't work hard and don't deserve to be champions. It just is providing evidence of why men's and women's athletics are separated. Men are bigger, stronger, and faster than women in all athletic competitions. And so the idea that a man should be able to identify as a woman and win a women's championship, to me, it's actually the height of the patriarchy. A dude can be a dude his whole life and then to decide to become a woman and be a women's athlete of the year and be a women's champion. This is crazy. So Riley Gaines going around saying, hey, as a SEC championship swimmer at the University of Kentucky, I think that we should have men's sports and I think we should have women's sports. And it's considered so controversial for her to speak out on this that the company Eventbrite will not even allow her events to be hosted on their website. Meanwhile, they've been allowing all these different Hamas supporting events to be ticketed. And so last night, like, this founder got in my mentions and OutKick mentions, and he was saying all sorts of crazy stuff. And I just keep coming back to, I can't believe that we live in a world where a Riley Gaines event is not allowed to be ticketed because there's fear of the trans community. And my question for all of you out there would just be, if the trans community is so powerless, how come they're so powerful? How come so many people are terrified of offending the trans community such that simply saying men's sports should be made up of men and women's sports should be made up of women is considered to be unacceptable, and they won't even allow the event to be organized? Now, I'll talk about this in the context of free speech. I think a company like Eventbrite should allow any legal event to be advertising on their site, right? You should be able to get tickets for anything. I don't agree with it, but if you want to have a pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine protest in the United States, I think you should be able to do that as long as you're not advocating for criminal behavior in the United States. I don't agree with you. And look, this is what free speech absolutism means. I don't agree with Nazis. If Nazis want to march and have a protest in the United States, I think they should be allowed to do so. I think that all political speech, so long as it is not accompanied by calls for violence, right, should be able to exist in the marketplace of ideas. What does it say that OutKick's Riley Gaines is not able to actually have an event organized through Eventbrite because they are afraid of her incredibly toxic, inflammatory, controversial opinion that women's athletics should be made up of women? I mean, it's just crazy. I would have never believed that we would ever end up in a place like this. And that builds on the next point here. A guy named Leon Cooperman. He is a billionaire. He was on, I believe it was Fox Business earlier today, and he has donated $50 million, he says, to Columbia. One of Columbia's professors allegedly said that the Hamas terror attack that killed 1,400 Jews was awesome. And Leon Cooperman said, hey, I think you should fire this guy. And Columbia said no. And so he says he's going to stop giving money to Columbia and donate his money elsewhere. I think that's the right call. I don't think that any college student should be expelled from college for a political opinion, even if it's an offensive opinion. As long as you are not putting people in direct threat or encouraging direct violence. We talked about this yesterday. I believe GW should strongly condemn the stupidity of saying glory to our martyrs on a Holocaust survivors named library in the center of GW's campus. I disagree with it. I don't believe the kids should be expelled. But I do believe that wealthy alums, and I would put myself in the category of a wealthy alum of George Washington University, I'm not going to donate any money to them until I see statements made by the administration repudiating in a strident manner what those kids are saying. I don't believe in expelling students. I do believe, and I think it's a more difficult question, why should you pay money to a professor who says that the Hamas terror attacks were awesome? I think that professor should have the right to say that in the United States. I wouldn't want to employ somebody at OutKick who said that. It's my personal opinion. I'm not saying you can't say it. I wouldn't want to employ somebody at OutKick. I wouldn't want to pay for my children to go and sit in a classroom taught by that guy. Now, if he wants to start his own school, I don't have any problem with it. I think that's a tougher call. But students, I wouldn't. I think academic freedom for individual students, but paying someone and protecting them for having truly, in my opinion, awful opinions about encouraging and endorsing terror attacks and saying they're awesome, I think that's a real challenge. And the one reason why I'm not inclined to fire people is because I don't like setting the precedent of, hey, you can have an opinion that gets you fired from a college campus, because I think it'll be applied more frequently on people of right of center, right? But I do think it's interesting to discuss. I think precedent and principle matter, and I think the easiest way to address what you think should happen is by choosing or not choosing to donate your money to universities which have what you think are the right responses in cases of endorsement of, I think, venal acts. And that brings me to an interesting video that was shared, and maybe we can cut this and put it in for the short form version of this discussion. A group calling out Major League Baseball, the NFL, and the NBA for their association with Black Lives Matter over many different BLM outlets supporting the murder of Jews and celebrating the atrocities perpetrated by Hamas. I think they raised a really interesting question. Why Major League Baseball, the NFL, and the NBA continue to be associated with Black Lives Matter, which is a Marxist organization that believes in identity politics and I think has been very destructive to many different minority lives all across the country. If you look at the data, purely data-based analysis, the more active BLM has been in a community, the more the murder rate has gone up and the more innocent black lives have been lost. And remember, back at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020, they were firing people for saying all lives matter. You weren't even allowed to say all lives matter. Remember, the Sacramento Kings fired Grant Napier, their longtime voice of the Sacramento Kings, for merely tweeting all lives matter. That was considered to be derogatory and unacceptable speech. If you just said, instead of Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. And I do believe Major League Baseball in the NBA and the NFL should reconsider. Remember, friggin' the NBA put Black Lives Matter on the court and wrote Black Lives Matter slogans on the back of player jerseys. I mean, this is craziness. The NBA, by the way, still hasn't recovered from this. The NBA ratings still stink because a lot of people said, yeah, I'm done with this. This was crazy talk. And it's continued to be crazy talk going forward even from now. This has been OutKick the show. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP.